Have a good mood. Today I will talk about creating a web application without writing code. So I'm going to create a system to track bugs in projects and fix them. Application workflow. The administrator creates projects and leads new users, managers or executors. When an error is detected in the project, the manager creates a task and describes the defect found. It is possible to attach additional files, for example, screenshots, to the task. The manager appoints the executor who is responsible for fixing the bug. Also, employees can comment on tasks to quickly resolve issues that arise. In addition, employees can keep a track of time spent. The executor solves the task and gives it for inspection. The manager checks the solution and closes the task if the defect is fixed, otherwise it returns to work. To create the application, I'll use the open source Evado Declarative Framework. Unlike classic development through models and controllers, a declarative framework does not need to write code. It is enough to describe the application metadata, that is, the domain entities and the relationships between them. Let's go. Go to the application template page. The first step is to install the required environment. This is Node.js version 12 and MongoDB version 4. You can use the template by creating your own repository in GitHub or simply copying the files to your disk. Download the app template zip archive and unpack it into the bugs folder. Next, go to the app folder and install dependencies. I use Visual Studio Code to edit the configuration and launch the application. Open the app folder. Find the config folder. Here are the app configuration files. The main settings are in the default file. At startup, the application will choose a configuration depending on the value of the Node.env environment variable. For example, development or production that inherit settings from default. Open config default and replace the application name, databases, session signing keys and cookies. Open the app class file and change the name to bugs application. Done. The basic setup is complete. Next, install and initialize the application data. Typical scripts for service actions are in the console folder. You can run them with the command line or IDE. Visual Studio Code has two configurations: installing and running the app in development mode. Run install app. The application is being installed and initialized. Run start app. In development mode, detailed logging takes place, making it easier to develop and debug. Next, go to the web interface. The Evado framework consists of several base modules. The Studio module is used to create application metadata, that is, descriptions of domain entities and relationships between them. The Office module is used to operate the application, that is, fill it with data. The administration module is used to control the application, user management, access rights, and the like. Now create the application entities. Let's go to the Studio module. You must be logged in to continue. During the installation, the user Adam was created with administrator privileges. Log in as Adam. Classes describe the domain entities of the application. Create a project class for which tasks will be created. Create a name attribute of type string. The attribute type is responsible for the type of data that will be stored in it. Check the boxes required and unique. This means that the value cannot be empty and must be unique among other values in this class. Create a description attribute of type text for an extended project data. On the main tab, specify the header template, which turns the class object into a string. If the template is not specified, the object ID will be used. A string view of a project is its name. The next class is the employee. This class provides binding of the system user to the application entities. Switch to the Attributes tab and create a user attribute of type system user. Check the boxes required and unique. An employee must be bound to a system user, and only one employee can link to the same user. Create a name attribute to give an employee a different name from a system user. Also check the boxes required and unique. Save the attribute. On the Search tab, check the common searchable and select Searchable. This means that the attribute will be used when searching among objects of the class. Employee string view is his name. Create a document class to add files to tasks. Create a file attribute that will store a link to the resource in the file storage. The attribute is required. Create a string attribute name for the file name. The attribute is required. Create a text attribute description. Add appropriate behavior so that the document class can work with file storage. Go to the Behavior tab. Create a new behavior of type file. Below you can set additional parameters for uploading files. Specify a maximum size limit of 10 megabytes. And also select the name attribute. It will automatically receive the name of the uploaded file. The next entity is the task. Create a required attribute project of type reference. The reference type determines that this attribute will keep a link to another entity. In this case, the link to the class project to which the task will belong. Check the Add box to select one of the existing projects. Create a text attribute description to detail the problem. Create a priority attribute that will store the priority level of the task. Save the attribute. On the Enumerations tab, create valid priority values. Create a reference attribute executor. This is a link to the employee who is assigned to solve a task. Check Add and Remove commands to select and remove an executor from a task. Create a required attribute author of type reference. This is a link to the employee who is the author of the task. The author is set by default when creating a task and cannot be changed in the future. To do this, check the Reading Only box. Save the attribute and add an employee's default that is linked to the current system user. Create attribute documents as a reference type to the document class. Many documents can be attached to a task. To do this, check the multiple link box. Check the commands Add, Remove, Create and Edit. Create a comment class that is responsible for commenting on tasks. First, create an attribute that refers to a task to which the comment belongs. This attribute is required and read-only. The default value can be omitted. For the reference type, it will automatically set to the object from which the comment is created. Create a text attribute text for the content of the comment. Next, create an author reference attribute pointing to the employee who created the comment. This attribute is required and read-only. The default value is an employee who is linked to the current system user. The work class is responsible for accounting of the time spent on a task. Create a task attribute. This attribute is required and read-only. The attribute refers to a task to which the work belongs. Then create a duration attribute that defines the number of minutes spent. The attribute type is integer. Add a validation rule that limits allowable duration values. Go to the Validator tab and add validator. Choose a numerical type. Set a minimum value of 1 minute and a maximum of 10,000 minutes. Create a text attribute description for details about the work done. Finally, create an author reference attribute that points to the employee who created the work. Go to the project class and create a task attribute. Choose type back reference. A back reference is a link value that is not stored in the attribute itself, unlike a reference, but is selected according to the specified parameters of the reference class and the reference attribute. To find tasks related to a project, specify the reference class task and the reference attribute project that is in the task. Check the multiple link box because there can be many project-related tasks. The task requires back references to comments and works. Go to the Status tab in the Task class. The Evado framework implements a state machine for entity objects. Each object is in a certain state and can be transferred to another according to the specified transitions. Create a new state. This is when a problem is pending. Check the default box. This means that when a task is created, this state will be assigned. Create an in-progress state. This is when the task is taken into work by the executor. Create a done state. This is when the problem is solved by the executor, but not yet reviewed by the author. Create a closed state. This means that the problem has been solved and reviewed. Select the read-only mode checkbox because objects in this state are not available for editing. To display the current status of a task, create a state attribute. This is a service attribute that stores a certain state of a specific task object. The code name for service attributes begins with an emphasis. Specify the type of view state. The view type is responsible for displaying the attribute on the form. The availability of different views is determined by the type of the attribute. Go to the Transitions tab. Transitions define how the states of an object change and reflect the application workflow. Create a start transition to start the work of an executor on a task. Choose the initial states new and done and the final state in progress. Also add a condition for the transition availability that the task has an executor. Create a complete transition to finish a task. Create a stop transition to temporarily stop working on a task. Create a reject transition to reject the solution to the problem. Create a close transition to terminate all activity on a task. Create a reopen transition to return already closed tasks to work. Go to the navigation sections and create a main section, which by default is responsible for displaying the side menu in the Office module. Add a project's navigation node. Specify the project class to display all objects of the class. Add employee's navigation node. Specify the employee class to display all objects of the class. Add a task's navigation node. Specify the task class to display all objects of the class. The main entities are created. Now export the metadata to the application. Then go to the Office module and create some projects. Create an employee. Now the system has only one user, Adam. Go to the administration module. The Evado framework implements a role-based access control system. Each user can be assigned one or more roles. Each role has certain permissions to perform certain actions. Each permission can have a rule that determines whether a permission is available or not. Create an employee role. Add access permissions to the Office module and file uploading. Create a manager role. This is a role for employees creating and validating tasks. Create an executor role. This is a role for employees who solve tasks. Next, go to metadata permissions. Access to application entities is defined here. First of all, give employees access to read all the data. Allow employees to create comments, documents, works. Allow employees to edit and delete their own comments, tasks and works. Create a rule that will check if the current user is the author of the object. Allow employees to modify and delete their own documents. This is done as a separate permission because the author is implicitly identified in documents via the system user service attribute and a different rule is required. Prevent employees from changing the state of a task. Allow managers to create tasks. Allow managers to change the state of their own tasks. Add the author rule. Prevent managers from starting, stopping, and completing tasks. This is the right of executors. Allow executors to change the state of tasks assigned to them. Add the executor rule. Prevent executors from rejecting, closing, and reopening tasks. This is the right of managers. Restart security for the changes to take effect. Go to Users. Create a new user Bob. Check the verified box and add the roles employee and executor. Create a new user Sarah. Check the verified box and add the roles employee and manager. Don't forget to restart security. Go to the Office module as an administrator and create employees Bob and Sarah. Log off as Adam and log in as Sarah. Sarah has employee and manager rights. For managers, projects and employees are read-only. Go to Tasks and create a new task. Assign Bob the task executor. The current employee is automatically assigned the task author. Log off as Sarah and log in as Bob. Bob has employee and executor rights. Open the task. The form is available in read-only mode and has a Get Started transition. Select Get Started. The task status has changed. In addition, the complete and stop work transitions become available. Complete the work by putting the task in the done state. Log off as Bob and log in as Sarah. In completed tasks, the reject and close transitions are available only to managers. Check the solution and close the task. The finished application is available on GitHub. The link is in the description for this video. Thank you for your attention.